All right. This is a hopefully quick video on how to do Verity's Encounter, or how my team specifically does the Verity's Encounter in Salvation's Edge. This is not the LFG Strat. I want to preface this by saying that there are no just one correct way to do it. There are multiple ways to get to the final outcome. The final outcome obviously being that the player will have the two shapes that they're not holding, that their statue is not holding, i.e. player 1 will end with circle triangle, triangle will end with square circle, and circle will end with square triangle. That's how Verity's works. You must end with the two shapes that your statue is not holding to create the 3D shape so you could go through the glass. All right. So obviously when the Verity's Encounter starts, 3 people will randomly be teleported into the inside, which is where they can see 2 shapes on their wall that the projector is showing them. There are 3 instances that can happen. Single double, the left side right here. Single double basically means that one player in the inside spawns with 2 of the same shape on their wall, and the 2 other players spawn with the 2 remaining shapes, square and circle square. Triple double, very, very simple. This is going to be basically very identical to the LFG strat, because this is what the LFGs try to force, is triple doubles. Basically, each player has the 2 of the same shapes that their statue is holding, i.e. square is holding 2 squares, or has 2 squares. Triangle has 2 triangles, circle has 2 circles. And then all unique, nobody has doubles, i.e. square has square circle, triangle square, circle has circle triangle. Nobody there has 2 of the same shapes. We're going to start with single double. If you look down here, it says send what you need to double. Like I said, if you have any kind of like basic knowledge of Verities, you know that you need to end with the 2 shapes that your statue is not holding. So i.e. the shapes that you need are the 2 shapes your statue is not holding. In this instance, square needs circle and triangle. And as you see, they spawned with square, which is the one they're holding, right, obviously, and circle. What you're going to do, if you're square in this instance, you're going to take your circle and you're going to send it to triangle. You're sending what you need to double. You're sending the shape that you technically need to end with to the person with double. In this instance, triangle, because they have double triangles. And if you're player 3, you're going to take the square that you spawned with and you're going to send it again to triangle. Now what happens here is that player 2 would be left with triangle, triangle. They'd be left with a circle and a square. If you look, you see that player 2 technically already has the 2 shapes they need to end with, the 2 being circle and square, but they still have the 2 triangles that they spawned in with. The 2 knights that will always spawn for every player are the 2 knights that you started with, unless you've already done swaps. So even if player 2 accidentally picks up both their shapes, if they dunk both, they'll always spawn back in. The knights will always spawn back in, both dropping triangle. Now, player 1 is left with their square that they spawn with, and player 3 is left with the circle they spawned with. All anyone needs to do. So all player 2 needs to do is send their triangle to player 1 and their other triangle to player 2. All player 1 needs to do is send their square to circle and their circle to square. You'll see that this leaves player 1, right, with a triangle from player 2 and a circle from player 3. Triangle is left with a square from player 3 and a circle from player 1. And player 3 is left with a triangle from player 2 and a square from player 1. If we count, that only took each player 2 swaps. If you're doing the LFG strat, player 1 and player 3 both would have to do 3 swaps in total because they would have to send their circle to player 3 and square to player 1. And then from there, distributed their double shapes, 1 to each player, which equally takes 1 swap for each shape. They have 2 shapes. That's 2 swaps more. That's 3 shapes total, or 3 swaps total. This strat basically eliminates that extra step and ensures that every instance only requires 2 swaps to get to the final shape and go through the glass. That's single double. Very easy. Send what you need to double. Now we go down to triple doubles. This one's obviously very straightforward, very easy. I don't really think I need to explain it, but I'll explain it regardless. This is what the LFG players try to force every time they go into inside. You try to force every player to have doubles, i.e. square has double square, triangle has double triangle, circle has double circle. What you'll do in this instance is the same as the LFGs. No different. Square will send both their squares away, 1 to each player. So 1 square will go to player 2, and 1 square will go to player 3. Triangle will send both their triangles away, 1 to each player. 1 triangle will go to player 1. 1 triangle will go to player 3. And circle, send both their circles away. 1 to player 2. 1 to player 1. So basically what this leaves everybody with, right? Square, or player 1, is left with a triangle from player 2, and a circle from player 3. Player 2 is left with a square from player 1, and a circle from player 3. And player 3, last but not least, is left with a square from player 1 and a triangle from player 2. 2 swaps is all it took. It's going to be the same as the LFG strat. Nothing's changed. Send both to both. Send both your shapes, 1 to each player. Now, all unique. This one might seem a little confusing because nobody has doubles. It is not. It is very simple. If we follow what the sentence says, send both to what you don't have. This is also pretty straightforward. If we look here, player 1, right? Player 1 has square and circle. What shape do they not have? Triangle. So because they do not have triangle, they'll send both their shapes to triangle. The reason why this is like this is because if you send both the shape that you have to the person that is not, to the person that you don't have their shape of, it will ensure that that person ends with the 2 shapes they need to create the 3D shape to get out the glass. Because you're sending both your shapes to the person of the shape that you don't have, which ensures that they won't get their same shape back, ever. Player 2, triangle, right? Will send both their shapes, they have triangle and square, to circle, because they don't have circle. And player 3, circle, send both their shapes, they have circle, triangle, they don't have square, they'll send them both to square. This again only takes 2 swaps in comparison to LFG, which would take everybody 3 swaps. So all you would do, right? This basically ends up with player 2. Player 2 will end with a square and a circle. Player 3 will end with a square and a triangle. And player 1 will end with a circle and a triangle. All that took was 2 swaps in comparison to 3 swaps. This, in practice, in theory and in practice, takes overall less swaps in the LFG strat, which also leaves less room for error. There's less human error that can happen to screw up your guys' swaps and to screw up something that happens in the middle ground that will cause your team to wipe. A lot of times what happens is with the LFG strat, sometimes people will go too fast, people will go too slow. Sometimes you'll get miscommunication. You'll say like, oh, I made both of my swaps already. We should all have doubles. And all of a sudden, ah, shit, this person only has one shape, and this person has 3 shapes for some reason. I don't need to explain how that happens. You guys have probably experienced that, and you guys have probably wiped because of that. This strat, these 3 instances can all be solved if you just do these 3, depending on what instance you have, to ensure that not only is there less swaps made overall, but you also eliminate this 3rd step that you need to do if you're doing LFG strat. And should always ensure that nobody has 3 shapes at once. That's it. Shout out to my friend Larry Jiggs. He's the one that came up with these send when you need double, send both to both, send both to what you don't have. Thank you.